All right, everyone. A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to another series, or rather, installment of demystifying NCRT for the Russian Revolution, and this shall be our last installment together on the Russian Revolution, wherein we will be looking, and this, of course, is the 16th installment, wherein we would be looking at how the Russian Revolution was sort of perceived globally across different countries. What was the influence of the Bolsheviks? How influential were they? How not influential were they? And whether or not did the ideals of the Russian Revolution stick well into the 1950s and the 1960s, when USSR emerged as one of the major world powers, along with the major nuclear powers, rather, along with the United States of America. Right? Perfect. So the topic is, of course, going to be the global influence of Russian Revolution and USSR. It's a very simple topic and very generic topic, which you will find extremely easy, right? So you will realize that by this point of time, Lenin and Stalin together have, in their own respective ways, changed the destiny of Russia, so to speak, and have very formally established a hardcore socialist regime. Stalin going one step ahead and actually becoming a dictator, a socialist dictator, much like Kim Jong-un in North Korea, having concentration camps, murdering people, executing them. Yeah, very typical stuff, right? So what is happening now is that even if you look at how the people across the globe are perceiving this, it's that many socialist parties across the globe were not really chilled out by the fact that the Bolsheviks were sort of adopting very hardcore, very oppressive means, so to speak, okay, to seize power, right? So they did not approve of the violence, basically, right? But this particular section was a very, a very minority sort of a section, right? That who those who did not believe in the Bolsheviks, but there were many, okay, who were inspired across the globe. The Russian Revolution did inspire a lot of people across the globe, to the extent that because of the Russian Revolution, many communist parties also started being established across Europe. And one good example being the Communist Party of Britain, right, which still exists, of course. This came to existence after the Russian Revolution, so we can give credit to Russian Revolution for the establishment of the Communist Party in Britain, right? If we look at the general influence of the Bolsheviks, it is quite a lot, right? But let us try to break it down and see what were the major influences of the Bolsheviks, right? They influenced a lot of people to be a part of communist slash socialist conferences. One example being the Conference of the Peoples of the East. It was a socialist conference that was, for the first time, which saw the participation of many non-Russian socialists from across the globe, be it the American socialists, be it the British socialists, be it the Indian socialists as well, who were fighting for the Indian independence movement at that point of time, right? So many of them joined this Conference of the Peoples of the East. It is peoples with an S, yes. That was led by the Bolsheviks. Again, very influential. You can see people, if they're not influenced by the Bolsheviks, they will of course not join a conference, right? Then many global socialist parties joined an international union of pro-Bolshevik socialist parties, which was known as Comintern. Okay, essentially speaking, it was a group of a collaboration of socialist parties from all across the world, right? Pro-Bolshevik socialist parties. Now, this is an important word, okay? Because there were some socialist parties who were not in favor of the Bolsheviks and their methods. That is very important to remember. So, pro-Bolsheviks, as in pro means supporting the Bolsheviks. So that group of parties who were supporting the Bolsheviks and were socialist parties themselves, they were known as the Comintern. And of course, we have the Indian nationalists like Nehru, Tagore. Then we have Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. We have Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, and all of these people heavily influenced by Soviet socialism. Bhagat Singh in particular, who went ahead and established the HSRA, which is the Hindustan Socialist Republican Association in India, which fought for independence in India using extreme methods. Right? You are aware of Bhagat Singh and you are aware of his sacrifice for the country. Right? Then of course you have many other perks of being associated with the Bolsheviks. Like those who supported the Bolshevik regime in Russia also used to receive free education from the USSR's Communist University of the Workers of the East. The names are a little long, but they're quite easy to understand. Communist University of the Workers of the East. नाम workers के लिए है, लेकिन it is open to all. Okay, it's not just that it is for the workers, it is for everyone included. Okay, so receiving free education, being a part of conferences, being a part of the school gang of pro-Bolshevik socialist parties, very exclusive, etc. etc. So you can see the influence is immense. ऐसा नहीं है कि influence नहीं है, काफ़ी influence है, ठीक है. And you realize that by the Second World War, USSR had given socialism a global face. Like if you talk about the socialist philosophy, the first country that comes to your mind is the USSR, which no longer exists. Of course, it broke up into many different countries. Now, USSR doesn't exist, but of course at that point of time it was the entire federation, right, of Soviets. Right, but by 1950s, after the Second World War got over, right, many global powers, including the capitalist United States of America, felt that the style of government in the USSR that was functioning was dictatorial. Right, they felt that it had less to do with the actual ideals of socialism and more to do with a classic dictatorial regime, which to an extent was correct, because in Russia, under a socialist regime, right from the times of Lenin, you were denied freedom and rights to basically voice your opinion. So if you remember Lenin also, he had a string of oppressive measures. Like he used to jail people who used to write against him. There was curtailing of the freedom of the press, curtailing the rights of freedom of expression. You really can't just go ahead and shout that Lenin is a useless monkey. You can't do that. He'll probably get you killed or he'll get you jailed. Right, and you are basically denying freedom and rights to the people. You are of course trying to do good for them, but then you are denying them basic rights. And of course you are carrying out your development projects through repressive policies. You are repressing the voices, you are repressing dissent, you are repressing basically anyone who does not agree with you, and that is not really probably how you would like to establish an ideal society, so to speak. Right, you are taking up development projects, but they are happening through repressive policies. Was the problem that the world had with USSR. Okay, and of course, by the end of the 20th century, by the time USSR broke up, okay, into multiple different countries, its international reputation as a socialist country had declined. Right, people stopped having faith in this ideal, in this philosophy of socialism which emerged in Russia. They said that it got tarnished. It is not what it used to be at one point of time. And eventually USSR broke also. Now, why did it break? How did it break? Is a very different discussion altogether. But yes, its reputation per se as a socialist country declined. Throughout the 60s and the 70s, it was in a Cold War situation, not actually fighting a war, but you understand the relationship were not warm with the United States of America, primarily because of the nuclear arms race. There was a nuclear arms race, then there was the space race between the US and the USSR. Both were fighting for sending people to space. Both were fighting to create a nuclear arsenal and become a nuclear superpower. And you know the drill. So essentially not really socialist once again. Right? So I hope this gives so much better clarity. It's a very simple topic actually. There's nothing very technical about it. So here was the global influence of the Russian Revolution and the USSR per se, and how the Bolsheviks also influenced a lot of other parties and rebels around the globe. And on that note, we finally conclude the last installment of the Russian Revolution series. I sincerely hope that the entire series has added some value to your learning, and that you have been able to understand the complexities of Russian Revolution in a much more simplified manner. Please do go through all of the tutorials in case you have not already, and do spread the word amongst your friends who might need help as well. Right. So on that note, please take care. Goodbye. And